Now, Eyewitness Sports.
Latest episode of Double OT with Mark Dondero. I'm Yanni Crocus. Ruthie is
at home in her slippers.
She's in her slippers at home. A lot to get to as we tape this on a Thursday evening. All right, let's start the big news with Rob Gronkowski's suspension this week. A lot of chatter nationwide. Should it have been more? Was it the right amount? Is he a dirty player? Tre'Davious White talking about that today. But at the end of the day, 1 game suspension. Are you okay with that?
I am okay with that. I've looked at the video multiple times in an effort to try to convince myself that that hit wasn't as dirty as it seemed. There is no convincing yourself. That was a dirty play. It was as dirty as it gets. Now, had they given him 2 games, I would have been fine with that. I wouldn't have argued that. 4 games, I would have argued. No, too much. But 1 game, which he got, was enough for me. Like I said, I would have been okay with 2, but 1 is enough. So the answer is yes, he did get enough because that's what they went with, and I'm hoping they followed the formula I would have followed. Who is it? It's Rob Gronkowski. Basically an Eagle Scout. Now, I know he has the partying background.
Right.
Basically, as far as a representation of the league, he's been an Eagle Scout. He's an exemplary employee for the Patriots. I hope they took that into consideration.
Yeah.
I hope they looked at his track record and his resume. And if you know anything, we've been around him enough. This is not a mean-spirited man. This is a big teddy bear. He is not trying to hurt people. Deron Harmon talked about that on Thursday. He's not trying to injure somebody. He popped off. And if you look at the tape, he was getting held. And if they look at previous games, he does get held. He's talked about it in the past. So hopefully the NFL took a little bit of ownership over the situation and said, you know, he does have a point. He shouldn't have done that. He popped off. We've all been there. Emotional. He shouldn't have done it. Again, he shouldn't have done it. It was really bad. Right at his head. But, you know, the 1 game was good for me. I was okay with it.
When it first happened, I thought it was a cheap shot. I don't think anyone realized how bad it was until you kind of sat on it and watched it over and over again. I'm okay with the 1 game as well. I would have been okay with 2, and then maybe he fights it and it gets dropped to 1. I think he needs to get something because it wasn't a football play, right?
Well,
it
no,
wasn't like he was tangled up in a play and he kept fighting with the guy. The play was over, the guy was on the sideline, and he attacked him, WWE style, and he went at the head, and he's 6'7", 260, big forearm with the brace to the guy's head. Him getting concussed doesn't help Gronk's cause because, you know, I think there's something to be said about whatever happens to the player, you get penalized more, right? If you get in a car accident and the guy gets off scot-free without injuries, it's not as bad as if something worse happens. And like you said, I think they took into account his resume, which was squeaky clean prior to this, and a little bit of excuse making from Gronk during his apology, but I think we all understand that his frustration with he being refereed a different way than other places came to a head. He lost his mind for the split second, and he deserves the suspension. But anyone calling him a dirty player doesn't watch him enough because he's not dirty.
Nope.
He gets held consistently, and the players don't get called PI. He gets called offensive PI a lot because of his size. It's like when Shaq used to play basketball. Guys were hanging on him, but he wouldn't go to the free throw line because he was Shaq. He's a big guy. So all this coming in leads up to the 1 game suspension, but he's not a dirty player, and I think nationally it's been an interesting thing. There's been some race talk about this. Is it different because he's a white guy versus a black guy? So I don't know if that's something you've thought about at great length.
You know, it has to come into play. No, initially this didn't come into play for me. It has to come into play nationally though, because that is that is something that we have to discuss and has to be assessed. No, do I think Rob Gronkowski was racist in this scenario? Absolutely not. That didn't factor into it. He was mad that the guy was holding him. It ended there. He didn't care what color skin he had. Yeah, if they want to talk about race and the punishment, and I prefer to talk about resume. But yeah, you know, it's a white guy. And that was the punishment he got. You could argue that it could have been more. He didn't get what people thought could have been a longer punishment, a longer suspension. He's white, So there's your conversation.
Well,
so we can talk about the conversation.
If you're Vontaze Burfict, you have a reputation for being a dirty player, then you're probably, if Vontaze Burfict does that, he probably gets more. But like you said, it's probably because of his past history, not because the color of his skin.
And as much as I like Gronk, and this is unlike him, but he was straight up whining after the football game. Whining about the calls he didn't get. Whining. And do I blame him? Not necessarily. But that's what he was doing.
Let me bring up something. I was listening to Colin Cowherd yesterday. He thinks, in conjunction with this play being kind of a wrestling move, he thinks Gronk will go into WWE post-NFL. What do you think about that?
I've never really thought about that. I mean, he has the showmanship. He's already been affiliated in ways with wrestling. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, he's big. He has the body.
I got to tell you,
hairless.
the money aspect of all this, if he doesn't get his incentives, because it's what, all pro, it's 80 catches. What are the other ones?
It was,
is there a touchdown
I thought it was, yeah, I forget. It was at 80 catches. It was 14 touchdowns and 1,200 yards receiving.
He should be an all-pro, but I think Kelsey may get. Will Kelsey get it?
I don't know. He dropped off. He had a big game the other day.
How many touchdowns does Gronk have?
I forget.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But he's behind the pace to get to 14. Might have 7, 8.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Okay, next. As far as the Patriots go, we already know the New York Giants are looking for a head coach. Their situation is a disaster. Will Josh McDaniels be the Giants' next head coach? Patriots offensive coordinator, has sniffed around other jobs. Other teams have been interested. Will he be going to Big Blue?
I say yes, because this is a top 5 job in the NFL. Good ownership, the Maras. Great lineage, great history with the Super Bowls. Parcells, Belichick, great coaches over the years. Tom Coughlin. And I think he's been waiting for the perfect scenario, right? Where has he interviewed over the years? Cleveland,
Flirted with San Francisco,
San Francisco, but that wasn't really set up. They're going to have presumably a top 3 pick. He can get a quarterback, assuming Eli's on his way out. But the interesting dynamic is they're saying they're hiring a GM, and the GM's making the call. So if they hire a GM from a different organization that maybe has his guy, then maybe McDaniels is out. And it'd be interesting if Nick Caserio got the job as GM, and then he brings McDaniels, and then it's like Patriots South there with the Giants. But I think this is a top 5 job. So if he's ever going to leave, he should leave now. Who knows when Belichick's going to hang it up? I think he would be a likely successor if it was in this window of a few more years. But I think McDaniels wants to be a head coach again soon. And I thought it would have been interesting if he was paired with Garoppolo somewhere. Garoppolo's in San Francisco, so it seems like that ship has sailed. But if he has control over the quarterback situation, good organization, I think he goes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's interesting what you said. I believe the reason it fell apart in terms of the 49ers was because he wanted to bring Nick Caserio, and they couldn't make it happen. So that is a reason, I think, why that never materialized. Do I think he goes to the Giants? If they offer him, yes. I think he in fact, I'd be shocked if he said no to the New York Giants. As you illustrated, ownership, quality ownership. The Maras, the Tisch family, great owners. They've proven that. You mentioned everything, but also the roster. The talent on the roster. They have a top 5 pick looming. You still have Eli Manning. You could get any one of those quarterbacks, Darnold, Rosen, Baker Mayfield, the kid from Allen, the kid from Wyoming, or wherever he's from. You could get a top 5 quarterback, have a guy in place, and be a part not only of that organization, but of a division that's always competitive just from the standpoint of competition. The market is a great market to be in.
You set yourself up for post.
If you're looking for another head coaching opportunity, this is it. And I think, and this could be key, Bill will even endorse it. Not only will not endorse it, not just give his blessing, endorse the move. John Mara, they were close when they were when Bill was a young coach in New York with the Giants back in the late 80s, early 90s. John Mara, his father Wellington was running the team. They were young. He was a younger guy. They knew they had a good relationship. He knows John Mara. I think he would endorse the move. He has a respect for the organization, unlike the Jets. So he would tell him, I think, you should do it.
Yeah. I don't know how McDaniels is going to be as a head coach.
No.
He's a great play caller. I don't know how he is as a leader of men. When the times get tough and he stands up in front, He's a small guy.
As a manager.
He's a young-looking guy. I don't know how much authority.
Wait a minute. It's not like Bill's 6'4".
No, I know, but I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what his downfall
Sean
was in
McVay's
Denver.
young. He's doing pretty well.
Was it the quarterback position? I mean, what led to his downfall in Denver? He had that hot
there was.
start,
Remember, there was the videotaping that I don't think they liked that.
Brandon Marshall, I think, was disgruntled, and
there
were some other things.
There were things there. But this is the scenario. If you're going to do it, the Giants have the lowest expectations that you'd be coming off a 2-14 season. I mean, you all you have to do is just win more than 2 games, and already you're a success. And then we'll see where you go.
I mean, when O'Brien came up through the system, McDaniels came up through the system. They got him. Was it right from O'Brien to McDaniels, right? So I don't know who Bill has in the pipeline.
Well, he had Dayball, but then he went to Alabama.
Left.
I'm sure they have somebody. But
who's the running back? Ivan Fears.
He's not calling plays, I don't think. But how would you like to coach Odell Beckham Jr.?
Yeah.
Now he's kind of a nut job, but he's also very talented.
Oh, yeah.
And they have all the defensive talent that Landon Collins, those guys that Jerry Reese brought in that haven't worked out, but there's talent there. You've got talent there. You've got top 5.
And you know what? He could pull a Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan accepted the Niners job pre-Super Bowl, so McDaniels could interview during the bye week in the playoffs and accept that job.
If the Giants ask him, I'd be shocked.
I don't know who are the other hot coaches. Like, who's out there?
Well, Nick Saban was a name somebody threw out.
You go from Alabama, the Deep South, to New York City. That seems like a tough transition.
The reason I wouldn't do it if I was Nick Saban, I would be more inclined to take like the Colts job because their quarterback is experienced. He's been there. And I don't want Eli Manning over the hill and then you get a top 5 pick, but how much longer are you going to go? You want a team that's ready to win if you're Nick Saban.
Comes back. Why not just pad your resume as potentially the greatest college coach ever?
What about Jim Harbaugh?
I don't know. Does he have a shot? Is he on the outs at Michigan already?
I wouldn't think so. I would not think so. 3 years, I would not think so.
The NFL, look, so many bad coaches, like quarterbacks, bad coaches in the NFL. All right, we're going to move to college basketball. URI beat PC for the first time since 2009 Saturday. PC squeezed out an overtime win over Brown. URI lost last night at Alabama. Providence, as good as we thought based on the most recent games. Ed Cooley last night said his team's identity is in shambles. Is he overreacting or maybe just a little wake-up call to his team?
I don't want to say he's overreacting. I guess it could be construed as a wake-up call. I think the fact that we're asking this question says something. But in the end, I do not think that they are less of a team than we thought they were. You know what I think that they're going through a rough patch. They're trying to figure things out. I think URI smacked them around a little bit. That game ended up.
It's not a bad loss.
It's not a bad loss, but they smacked them around. They've had some close games. They went to overtime against Brown. That's not, with all due respect to Brown, you want to not go to overtime against Brown.
They beat Brown by like 30 last year.
That's right. So they're going through some things, and I think they'll figure it out. I think they'll be okay. So I'm not going to say they're not as good as we thought they were, Yanni, but we have to ask the question because of what we've seen. I think they'll be okay.
I'm not worried about them at all. I think it's a totally excusable loss at Rhode Island. Rivalry game, jazzed up at the Ryan Center. And Cartwright didn't have a good game. He has a bum ankle. They didn't look good last night. They didn't look particularly inspired. They turned it up in the second half. But they lost to Brown in 14, went on to win the Big East title and go to the NCAA tournament. Ed Cooley is too good of a coach to let his team just lollygag through any portion of the season. So they're going to be fine. They're still trying to figure things out. I mean, Emmett Holt losing him was a huge deal, and they've done really well without him. The freshmen have come along. So I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to get in the tournament. They're a little bit streaky. They've been streaky in recent years, so no alarm for me. They're going to be fine.
Let me just say this. If we're talking about Ed Cooley, where I worry about Ed Cooley maybe is, okay, they're playing a team that is heavily favored to beat them. Is he going to be able to scheme up a way to get this upset done? You know what I mean? Is he going to be able to figure out a way to outcoach the other coach and pull off an upset when maybe you have the lesser talent? What I'm not worried about with Ed Cooley is getting his guys' heads right. And rallying the troops. And we talked about
like tactically.
Tactically is where I worry about Ed Cooley, if at all.
I mean, basketball, if that's as big as.
I don't know if I'm not some basketball guru from backdoor cuts and talking about the playbook, But that's where I would worry more so than getting his guys in the right frame of mind and getting their act together.
I don't know who in the Big East, other than maybe Villanova, Seton Hall is good, that would really be huge favorite over PC.
Oh, I'm not talking. I'm talking about the NCAA tournament.
So you're talking NCAA. If they go up against a Duke, could he out-scheme it?
Can you out-scheme a team and find a way to beat a team?
If your shots are going down that night, you could upset a Duke.
I think Ed Cooley's biggest, strength, maybe, is that the word? That he has the swagger and the charisma to go in and get a bunch of talented recruits to say, yes, I'm coming to Providence, and then you go out onto the court with all that talent and you beat teams. You out-talent teams. That's his strength, in my opinion. Not let's go out with lesser talent, maybe Brad Stevens, and find a way to scheme it up so you can get to a Final Four. I don't think that's Ed Cooley's strength.
Yeah, I mean, he's had good talent, but
I'm not saying he can't coach. I just don't think that's...
Big East, they had the nice run in the Big East tournament.
Sure.
Yeah, they've had some wins over ranked teams.
I'm not saying he can't coach or isn't able to do that. I just don't think that's his strength, his ultimate strength.
Yeah, I think as a motivator, he gets his team ready.
Yes.
I think he's a great brand ambassador for PC
of
basketball,
course.
Great CEO. So he's got a talented roster, and the kids coming next year, David Duke, AJ Reeves, they're going to be loaded again. So they'll be good.
Yeah, okay. So speaking of coaches and managers, baseball, Red Sox and...
an interesting backdrop here. Cora's like on fire with the sun.
Red Sox and Yankees, two managers wet behind the ears. Who do you have more faith in going into next season? Alex Cora for the Red Sox or Aaron Boone for the Yankees?
I'm going Alex Cora, both first-time managers, but he was the bench coach on a World Series winning team last year. Both first-time managers, interesting dynamics. I think I was really impressed by Cora at his press conference, said all the right things. Seems like he has kind of the right approach to a manager in 2017. He's going to relate to some of the younger guys, something maybe John Farrell didn't do. Hopefully he holds his guys accountable. The story about him getting hammered and yelling at a broadcaster and AJ Hinch, I don't love, but I don't think it's like a huge red flag. Aaron Boone, I have no idea. He was on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. It seems like the Yankees just wanted someone to be an extension of their front office and all the metrics and Moneyball stuff. So if it's second and third and one out, or first and second and one out, percentages say you bunt the runner over. So Aaron Boone, you better be doing that. If you manage with your gut like Joe Girardi wanted to do, we're not going to have that.
Which AJ Hinch did, by the way.
Which I think inherently that position calls for.
Yes, and it does. He did. Now it's not like he ignored the analytics and the metrics.
I think Boone's a smart guy. I think he'll be fine. We've seen people like Steve Kerr have success right out of the broadcast booth into coaching, so I don't think it's completely unheard of. I like my chances more with Cora. I will say this about Aaron Boone. When reading his resume the other day, only the 1 year in New York, but because of that home run, it seemed like he was on that team for a few years.
It does. I didn't even realize
1 year with
didn't
the Yankees,
know that.
and he's their manager. I mean, is he one of the guys? I mean, he's on a ALCS championship-winning team. They lose to the Marlins that year, but... So all their candidates were out of left field, I thought. Carlos Beltran, who else?
Okay. This said to me that managers, and maybe it speaks to the analytics, both these hires said to me that managing the game isn't that big a deal
anymore.
As long as you got a guy that can relate to the clubhouse, that seems to be the priority, because remember the Yankees? Wasn't there some dissension there with Joe Girardi? They didn't like, Aaron Judge, or they didn't like the manager a little. And then obviously the Red Sox and John Farrell, there was some issues there. So maybe they want guys that can relate to the kids or the guys in the club. I don't know. But what are you doing hiring these people? Aaron Boone was in the broadcast booth. What does he know about managing a team? I know he played managing the team.
What did Alex Cora know prior to being the bench coach?
But he wasn't the manager. He was the bench coach.
Right.
When you're the bench coach, you can be buddies with the team. The manager has to manage, so you're not everybody's friend. You have to deal with egos and relationships and relationship issues on top of the baseball stuff.
Who are the best managers in the bigs? Francona, Joe Madden?
Sure.
Who else?
I mean, if we're going back, Joe Torre would be. AJ Hinch.
Those guys are making right decisions in late inning situations. Yes, they manage their clubhouse, but it seems like the manager has been really devalued in recent years, doesn't it?
When you take out the pitcher, when he's struggling in the second inning, or do you let him ride it through that tough stretch and hopefully he shuts him down going forward?
Especially in the postseason, is use your bullpen. Starter goes 4 innings, like we saw that in the whole Boston-Houston series.
I mean, that was Joe Torre's strength. Things like that. Now, I don't know when did you ever hear anybody talk about how Joe Torre handled the clubhouse? And maybe I just don't know enough about Joe Torre's Yankees.
I'll say
But it was about his in-game management that was so effective that got them all those World Series.
Think about Francona managing the 0-4 team with Pedro, Manny, Schilling, Ortiz, Damon, Millar. Think about those personalities. That's managing a clubhouse. Who has a strong personality in this last year's Red Sox team other than David Price for all the wrong reasons?
Look, it does seem like baseball is going in that direction. There are younger managers leading these teams, and that's okay. I just don't know how you expect me to sit up here and defend Aaron Boone. He hasn't done anything. He has been in the broadcast booth.
What does Mike think about it? Have you talked to him?
I haven't talked to him. Should have had him on the show. But there's just nothing. I mean, look. You could put me in the manager. You could put me in the Yankees uniform to manage. I'd win some games.
Isn't that the premier managerial position in baseball, the New York Yankees manager?
It is the position. But maybe they,
What do you think Buck Showalter thinks about that? A baseball lifer who's managed them.
He's probably sick to his stomach. But Phil Jackson, I will say this: Phil Jackson's biggest strength. Not how he. Now I know the triangle offense, but he was able to take all the egos and everybody in that locker room and get them to kind of meditate together and coexist. And that's what. And he had all the talent in the world. But maybe these two teams, these two organizations, are saying, "Look, Red Sox, Yankees, we're going to get you talent. Talent isn't a problem in these cities. Just be able to manage the guys, not have it become a train wreck in the clubhouse with the media." And then we'll go from there. But to win a World Series, you got to make some good calls in between the first and ninth inning.
Who do you think's in better shape now? Do you like Aaron Boone hire?
Alex Cora is in better shape.
Mike, do you like the Aaron Boone hire?
Are you on air?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's on the air.
I'm neutral.
Neutral. Good decisive answer.
You know what? I think it's a thinking out of the box hire.
Okay.
He's very smart. Players like.
Do you think the manager's been devalued in baseball?
It shouldn't be.
I agree with that. It shouldn't be. But I just don't know how you can sit here and defend Aaron Boone as a hire. You know nothing about how he's going to react in a managerial situation. I mean, we've never done it.
Whatever Cashman tells him to do, he's going to do.
That's going to happen.
Okay.
All right, I think that wraps things up there.
Yeah.
4 topics, but some good discussion there. Thanks so much for watching. Catch the episode on WPRI.com, on iTunes, search OOT, and on social media at Mark Dondero, at Yanni Caracas. Ruthie will be back next week, we hope. Anything to add?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We'll see you next time.